Welcome everybody to AFSO21 Radio. You're listening to the Weekend Wrap-Up.
Welcome everybody to another episode of the Weekend Wrap-Up here on AFSO21 Radio. I'm your host, Kevin Ferrara, and folks, we are finally back on schedule. So thanks to our audience members out there, listeners and viewers for sticking with us. Like I said before in our previous podcast, we had some things that were going on. We had to put some podcast releases on hold. We had one last week. We got one this week. We're back on schedule. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. And with that, we're gonna have a sort of a roller coaster episode this week. We're going to talk about some fire stuff. We're going to get into some political stuff. I've actually held off on some political things here on the podcast purposely because, you know, politics, especially those in the firehouse, you know, it can get crazy at times. But there is some political things that are going on that do affect firefighters, in particular military firefighters, and we're going to talk about that here on the podcast. So before we get started, let's go ahead and hear from our sponsor, Fire Department Coffee.
One of the first things people ask me when they meet me is
Fire Department Coffee a real company?
Yes, we're real. Like really real.
No, we're not roasting your tasty beans here at the fire station. That's called water hammer. But we are roasting those wonderful beans of sanity to the perfect temperature here at our roasting facility.
And then shipping them to you from our brand spanking new fulfillment center. But don't take my word for it. Hear from some of the amazing people that have had our coffee.
Yeah, Fire Department coffee's real. Real as this guy's face.
Yeah, Fire Department coffee's real. As real as my urge to never wear a shirt. God dang it!
So if incredible tasting coffee is your thing, head on over to firedepartmentcoffee.com. But only if you like real great tasting coffee, real authentic gear, and real attractive firefighters. Really good coffee.
All right, folks, we're back. And yeah, Fire Department Coffee is a real company. They've been around for a little while now. Awesome team down there. So if you have not checked out their coffee, please go to their website and use AFSO21. That's AFSO21, and you'll get a 10% discount on your next order. So take advantage of that, folks. So as I said, this is going to be somewhat of a roller coaster episode. We're going to talk about some personal things, some political things, some fire related things. So let's just jump into it. So first and foremost, last episode you heard me talk about my cousin Stevie Ferrara, unfortunately passed away. I just want to give a shout out to all of those that have messaged me, sent me their sympathy, their condolences, their respects for that. So it's much appreciated. I know the family listens to the podcast. They watch the social media pages. So they're going to see this. They're going to appreciate it. And we appreciate everybody out there that did chime in. So again, thanks a lot. And, biggie props to my cousin Steve up there looking down on us. So, okay, Hurricane Ida. Folks, Hurricane Ida, and you're going to see me bounce around here. You're probably going to see some highlights and some darkness because of the pages. Hurricane Ida is strengthened into a major Category 4, folks. Hurricane, and it is due. Today is the 29th of August. We're posting this. We're recording it and posting it at the same date. Typically, that doesn't happen. But yeah, Hurricane Ida, major Cat 4 hurricane. It's going to hit the Gulf Coast. It's going to make landfall. And what's crazy about this is that it's happening on the same day. What they say that Hurricane Katrina had hit before. So if you're in the Louisiana area, and I know I've got a lot of military listeners down in that area, get out of the area if you can. Don't be heroes, and don't, and I'm talking about the civilians out there. Don't be, so, I don't even know how to describe it. People, I respect it. I know you have your personal belongings. You don't want to walk away from those. Folks, we saw the devastation during Katrina. They're saying this is going to be equal, if not more. And that's the National Weather Service and other places, weather agencies are saying this. This is going to be destructive, folks. So if you're in the area, get out while you can. If you can't get out, and this goes to all my emergency responders down there, you know what to do. You've been through this before. Make sure you're safe. Make sure you're, as high as you can be because of the water. Make sure your departments are fortified. Hunker down. Do what you got to do. Stay safe down there. This one, I'm just scrolling through, looking at it. It started from a Cat 2 to what they're calling extremely dangerous Cat 4 in just a few hours this morning. It's 9:13. It's probably already making landfall down there. So, what they say, 155 mile per hour winds. Just 2 mile below Cat 5. This thing could pick up, as those in the area know, hurricanes, it's going to have insane winds, devastating winds, heavy rainfall. And this is not just in Louisiana. This is southeastern Louisiana, southwestern Mississippi, and even as far as southwestern Alabama. So that whole Gulf Coast area, Southern America, Southern Gulf Coast, it's going to get hit. So again, if you're in that area, if you're listening, please take whatever actions are necessary to protect yourselves, protect your loved ones, protect your pets. Property can be replaced, lives cannot. So I can't stress that enough. If you're in the area, folks, seek shelter, seek protection, and stay safe. So moving on to what we talked about political wise, I've been getting a lot from a lot of firefighters. This has been blowing up on social media and everything. We know the situation in Afghanistan. The current administration, the Pentagon, has essentially pulled military out of there, or they did. We had a drawdown. They pulled everybody out. Unfortunately, that has allowed the insurgents, the terrorists, if you will, the bad guys to sort of take over. They've collected themselves because they were scattered like cockroaches, and now they're all gathering. And they're at Kabul, the international airport. It was utter chaos there. It's still utter chaos there, folks. We don't have any military firefighters there, but we do have military. And unfortunately, the other day, they had the bombing, killed 13 service members, injured a lot more other people there. Excuse me, scratching my nose here. With that came the swarm of refugees, because of the fact that, Taliban, ISIS, Al Qaeda, whoever you want to name, they're most likely there. The bad guys, they are going through. And at first this started out, which was really wonky. They were like, okay, we're going to give you a certain time frame. The bad guys are saying this. We're going to give you a certain time frame to get your people out. And then it was almost like, okay, once that clock ticks off, then it's almost fair game. That's how I perceived it to be. And sure enough, there was a window of opportunity there to get folks out. There's still Americans there. There's still other countries' citizens that are there, trying to get them out. So, at some point, somebody detonated a bomb at one of the gates. They had intel, said it was going to happen. Sure enough, it did happen. People got killed. People got injured. We're still trying to get them out. But where the political thing comes in on this is the Pentagon had, in the past couple days here, they said, they're opening up more military bases in the U.S. Now, those that are familiar with Ramstein Air Base in Germany, those that are there listening, you look at their parking ramp. It's actually in front of the fire station, the flight tower, in front of base ops, where all the DVs land and park. They got the little red carpet out there. That whole ramp out there right now is a tent city, folks. And when I say tent city, they have what's called the Alaskan Small Shelter Systems. It's basically, it looks almost like a fabric Quonset hut. I saw a picture yesterday of it. It's crazy. Those that are in the military, familiar with military, in a bear base environment, you set up, you've got tent city. That's what this thing looks like on a military installation. So you have a tent city on a military installation, and that's where a lot of the refugees, as they're coming from Afghanistan, they're landing at Ramstein. They're putting them in this tent city. We don't know how long they're going to be there. We don't know where they're going to go after the fact. They can't stay there forever. That's a reality. But what is concerning here in America is that the Pentagon is transporting refugees. And I get it, folks. I absolutely get it. The bad guys are going to do bad things to these individuals. They need to get out of that area. And that's really what a refugee is that, if they are in fear of their life, if, the country is collapsing, they need to get away from that. They need to seek refuge. That's what a refugee is. So, and, I understand that. I'm not saying leave them there and let them fend for themselves. But what is concerning, and it's not just me, it's a lot of firefighters out there, a lot of Americans are asking this question. A lot of people all over the country, all over the world are asking the same question. So if all of these, they're saying, I'm looking at the headlines, Pentagon opens up more military bases in the U.S. to hold up to 50,000 Afghans. And this is from Fox News the other day. They're sending these individuals to U.S. military bases, such as Holloman Air Force Base, bases in Virginia, Fort Bliss down in Texas. So they're scattered all over the country here in America. One, and let's look at Holloman Air Force Base. So Holloman was tasked with accepting immigrants from the southern border. So you had this swarm of immigrants seeking, citizenship here in America. So they took that. This was a little while ago, but they took that swarm of immigrants, relocated them. And a lot of them were women and children. Relocated them to Holloman Air Force Base, put them in a hardened facility there until they could be processed through the system and reintroduced into society with family members or sent back across the borders. So now you're going to have Afghans in that same area, as well as other installations. And my question is, looking at an emergency services viewpoint, you've now, those familiar with military installations, your manpower, your vehicle sets are established based on the population and the mission served. Once you start increasing that population and changing that mission, your manpower, your vehicle assets, all of that changes as well, or at least it should be. So from an emergency responder perspective, how you really have to ask, how is that affecting your emergency response capabilities? Now, I've seen on different job sites out there that I monitor, because I try to let some folks know different jobs that are popping up. There's one company out there, I'm not going to name it. They're looking for EMTs, and they're paying like $40 to $60 an hour, and it's EMTs for these refugee sites. I just clicked on the one link to it. It said they were looking for folks up in Indiana. Okay, where are these sites at in Indiana? Where are they housing it? Because I had not heard Indiana before until I saw on this job site. So anybody in Indiana, if you have answers to that, if you've heard of where the refugees may be being temporarily or permanently located, feel free to let us know here at the Weekend Wrap Up. But that job, like I said, they're looking for EMTs, and there's a lot of postings. I mean, they're looking for personnel all over the country, and that goes back to that emergency response capability. So until those contracts, I'm assuming that these will be government contracts. That's why they're paying $40 to $60 an hour. Again, remember how I talked about in previous episodes, when the DOD contracts out, and they're contracting to civilians with security clearances and everything like that, they're dropping mad money, folks. That's taxpayer funds. So, I'm sure this is a multi-million-dollar contract, because they got to pay salaries. I'm sure there's some benefits. They got to, insurance, all of that stuff goes with that. That's why that $40 to $60 is up there. And I don't discourage anybody, if it's a legitimate opportunity, if you want to help out emergency services, do your homework on the companies. Like I said, they're out there on the job site websites, or job search websites, I should say. Feel free to look them up. But going back to local resources, so you look at Holloman. You look at Holloman Air Force Base, and are their personnel helping out with the refugees? Were their personnel assisting with the immigrants? We haven't heard. The DOD is keeping pretty hush hush on a lot of this. Who's taking care of these individuals? You look back at Ramstein. Those that are familiar with tent cities, bear base operations, you have a lot of. You look at these pictures that are online, you have a lot of tents, which means there's a lot of people in there. Well, okay, you have to clothe these individuals because they only came with nothing, or maybe a bug out bag, a few items of clothing. Trust me, I feel for these individuals. Their country is, it's a shit show. Afghanistan, let's be honest. These people, given the opportunity, I'm all for that. I do have sympathy for them. They've had to bug out. They've had to leave everything behind. Whatever little possessions that they did have. The kids, let's face it, these kids, they have no idea what's going on. Most likely they don't. But, they get to these facilities, and then now somebody has to clothe them. They have to feed them. They have to, give them the basic necessities. Where is that coming from? Is it American tax dollars going for this? Is there a pool of money from the United Nations, from all of these, was 179 or so sovereign nations out there? Are they putting all, funds into a bank account, and then, somebody's in charge? You look at the ICS system. Where's our logistics folks at? Who's writing the checks? What's going on out there? We're not hearing a lot. We're seeing some photos, but there's really not a whole lot. And what's even more concerning, and I've talked to a lot of folks on social media. They hit me up with this. I respond back. Is the inevitable occurred, folks. So as these Afghan refugees were leaving the country, folks, you saw the videos, you saw the pictures. I mean, they were literally hanging on the side of a C-17 jet as it departed. Unfortunately, you saw the videos. There was a few that fell off, ultimately died. I mean, that's how desperate these folks are to get out of this country. But the inevitable, and what a lot of folks, the expected occurred. Department of Homeland Security, as they were vetting these refugees, some names, some individuals popped up on the watch lists. And this is why I try to steer clear of politics on the show here, because I mean, we could armchair quarterback, we could talk about this stuff all day long. It's crazy. You'll do it in the firehouses. I try not to do it here on the show, but this is something that affects the fire emergency services on military installations, and ultimately it's going to affect those within municipal communities. As these temporary holding facilities are being established, you have individuals that were identified on a watch list, that are now within these group of refugees. And the concern is, and there's been some chatter, that's out there, that's saying, 9/11's right around the corner, folks. Something could happen again. I'm not saying it is, I'm not saying it's not. The risks are there. That's going to affect, God forbid something does happen, that's going to affect our emergency responders out there. Personally for me, I've asked, why are all the refugees coming to America? Again, you have 170 plus sovereign nations in the world. Why is everybody coming to America? And again, I have no problem with helping refugees. I think as humans, we need to do that. But it seems like everybody is going to U.S. installations around the world. So you've got them going to Ramstein. You got it going to Rota, Spain, Italy, like I said, Germany. All these countries. And now eventually they're going to come to America, it seems. When I talk about municipal emergency responders, being concerned about this, you look at Dulles International Airport. They flew refugees into Dulles. They housed them at, I think it was the convention center, the Dulles Convention Center out there. It's obviously military may have been on site, but that's something, municipal departments, municipal emergency responders, they're going to be affected, especially our medical personnel. So you look at EMTs, paramedics, hospitals. Okay, if something happens with these individuals, are they treating them on site, or are they taking them to an ER? It's almost, you could almost say it could be classed as a mass casualty incident of sorts. Although there are no casualties, you have this influx of, a mass influx of individuals that have now been dropped in your backyard, really. So how do you take care of those? You look at emergency operation centers that are probably standing up, emergency management coordinators that are standing up, local, state, federal, this is a grand emergency incident. That's really how I don't even think there was a plan for all of this. It was just like, boom, here you go. Local departments, I'd be willing to say you never planned for a large scale event like this. Nobody would ever think, all of a sudden, boom, here we got several hundred, several thousand are going to be showing up all at once. What do we do with these individuals? And again, like I said, at Ramstein, you have all the logistics. Here in the United States, Holloman, you're going to have logistics. Fort Bliss, you're going to have logistics. The various bases in Virginia. I know Fort Dix McGuire Lakehurst, that facility is expected to receive some. So logistically, how do you take care of all of these individuals? If if you got comments about that, any input on it, please, when we put this up on social media, feel free to hit us up, send us an email here at send it to podcast at AFSO21.com. That's PODCAST at AFSO21.com. And then of course on YouTube, feel free to comment on that as well. But yeah, this is something that, like I said, it's refugees. Yes, they deserve a chance. Absolutely. To live a better life, to, be free from terrorism, from all of that. But it is really concerning that, they've already found questionable individuals amongst those that were seeking refuge on the watch list. And now those individuals are here in the United States and other countries. So, okay, so moving on to our next topic. And this is one I've talked about before in terms of emergency response capability. So those in the Air Force know, you're familiar with the emergency response capability. I built it. That was my baby. There's some folks in the Air Force that, tried claiming it's theirs. It's not. At the end of the day, I was the one that designed it. They adopted it. So, it is what it is. I've incorporated it into other departments, through, the consulting side of AFSO21. They absolutely love it. For those that are unfamiliar with it, basically it's a knee board, it's a desktop or a dashboard. You plug in some information, it'll show you what your capabilities are. You can relay that back to your leadership and say, this is my department. And because of outages, vehicles out of service, equipment out of service, personnel untrained, uncertified, this is what our capabilities are. And it's built off of NFPA standards. So it's a really good tool if you want to know right away what your capabilities are. And it goes from optimal, reduced, critical, and insufficient levels. So there's 4 categories on there. Great little product. I'm proud of it. So when we talk about emergency response capability, I hear a lot locally here in Pennsylvania. Listeners, audience members message me all the time. They're like, they said, we always hear of so-and-so apparatus responding with 1. And they're like, how can that response be effective if you've only got 1 individual on the truck? especially an engine, responding to a fire, alarm, anything like that. And, my response to that is always they're not effective. We can't, especially in a volunteer fire service, a lot of volunteers, those that are listening, audience members, volunteers, sometimes it's quicker just to have your gear in the back of the truck, back of the car, respond to the scene, meet up with the apparatus there. I get it. But can we honestly rely on that? Folks responding, in POVs to the scene. I've heard many a time, engine so-and-so responding with one, engine so-and-so on scene, but you don't hear anybody else. Now, I get it. Volunteers, they don't have radios, so we really don't know how many folks are on scene. But then post-incident, or if you do end up on an incident, you see, hey, so-and-so department only had like 2 or 3 people. Is that still an effective initial? Because you look at NFPA standards on career and volunteer departments, they're going to tell you, initial, especially on career, initial company is 4, minimum is 4. Volunteer, the minimum is 6 on scene within a certain amount of time. So again, are these departments really just checking the box? When it comes to insurance, like your ISO, you got to get out in a certain amount of time. Okay, well, are they just checking the box and saying, oh, well, we got out within 30 seconds. We got on scene within a minute and a half, 2 minutes, well under the required time. Well, that's great that you got out quick. You got the truck out the door, out the barn. You got it on scene. But who's there to operate that vehicle? And I'm not talking about the driver operator. Obviously that individual got the truck out the door. I'm talking about who's there, ready to go, full PPE, pull the hand lines and start, extinguishment of the fire or rescue. Or does that driver have to sit there and wait until somebody shows up? That's driver operators out there, let's hear from you. Have you encountered something like this? Even firefighters, anybody in the fire service, have you encountered this situation to where it's like, oh, well, they got the truck out with one, but now we're relying on everybody else. And that goes back, it also ties into training with your neighboring departments. So if a driver from company A gets out with just one, and nobody shows up from, nobody else shows up from company A, worst case scenario, nobody else shows up, but now company B is on the alarm and they've got personnel showing up. Are they familiar with company A's apparatus, operating functions, policies, procedures, or do they got to check in and be like, okay, what are we doing here? It goes back to training. It goes, familiarization. I get it. Volunteer firefighters, it's a bitch to try to get individuals into your departments and get them to stay. I absolutely get it. Recruitment is the hardest thing in volunteer fire service today. Recruitment and retention. But, and this is where a lot of folks are saying the volunteer fire service is on its way out. I'm still on the fence with that. I do, unless something changes drastically, I do see it becoming, a thing of the past. I don't think, in the near term, I think in the long term, volunteer fire service is going to go away because of the way the industry is changing in terms of certification and more requirements. And, I really do wish more organizations would adopt NFPA. Here in Pennsylvania, you've heard me talk about this before. Pennsylvania does not have a minimum requirement for firefighter training, meaning you could pull somebody off the street and say, hey, you're going to be a firefighter today. And they could ride the apparatus, once they're approved into the department, the organization, they could ride that apparatus, they could pull hose. It is up to the authority having jurisdiction to dictate what level of training and certification firefighters need to have. Now, typically, everybody here in Pennsylvania says, oh, yeah, firefighter 1, you got to get your essentials done. That's the minimum level, hazmat awareness and ops. Firefighter 1, and you're good to go. But there's a lot of firefighters out there that don't have firefighter 1, awareness or ops. It's crazy to think that, coming from the DoD level, the Air Force, to where, we prided ourselves on training, certification, NFPA standards. Yes, we were career, we were a paid department, at the end of the day, and then going to, back to volunteer. I started volunteer, went paid, back to volunteer. But the organizations I'm affiliated with, we're doing the right thing. We're getting squared away. We're getting training, certification, recognized, which benefits not just the firefighters and the organization, but also the community. That's the big picture. I think a lot of folks are missing is that it's not about us, it's about the community we serve. So the better trained, the better capabilities we have to offer, the better protection we can provide to our communities. And that's where this ERC comes into play. So think about that question. How effective is your response when apparatus only responds with one? Just think about that, as you're around the kitchen table in the firehouse, training nights, plan for that. What is your plan, if only one person shows up and gets the truck out the barn and on scene, and do a worst case scenario. Say you have an entrapment in a fire, building fire, and only one person, the driver, shows up on scene. What's going to happen? Do you still get that truck on scene and start getting some water on it, or do you wait in-house until you get more folks showing up? It's like I said, we could debate this all day long, and I think it's a good discussion. I think it's a good conversation to have within the firehouse. So, all right, folks, as we wrap up here, this is going to be a short podcast, a little roller coaster, like I said, different topics. I want to address something that I came across the other day, and I do this a lot. I do Google searches, try to keep up on some things, and I just happened to do, my last name, Ferrara, and PFAS. I just did Ferrara, PFAS. Put it in Google, see what the results are that comes up. Interesting enough, about the fourth or fifth link that showed up on Google popped up with this company called, let me enlarge it here so I can get them, Environmental Litigation Group, PC. And underneath their little subheader says, processing toxic claims since 1990. Well, folks, this is a law firm. Let me see where they are at. I really don't even know where they're at. They got, Birmingham, Alabama is their main office, and then they got a DC office, Washington, DC. They got a GSA contract. It's interesting. But anyhow, I'm scrolling through there, and I'm like, why would my name be associated with this litigation group? And here it turns out, individual by the name of Trevin Piles. Now, Trevin is the administrative director of the firm. He drafted a blog, posted it on August 6, 2021, so just a few weeks ago. And as I'm reading through it, and I'll have a link up here. Well, no, I'm not going to put a link up here because I'm not going to support this organization. And I say that, folks, because I don't support any law firms out there unless it's ones that I personally use either for personal use or my business. I will never endorse, a law firm that I have not researched and felt comfortable with. You've heard me talk about these type of law firms that are out there, that are going, they're submitting these claims on behalf of firefighters and those affected. And you've heard me say that a lot of these, I'm not saying this one in particular, but a lot of these law firms, they take a huge cut off of the settlement, typically 40 to 50%, leaving every plaintiff with breadcrumbs, if you will. That's why I say if you're going to pursue a lawsuit against, you can't sue the DOD, folks. So that leaves you with the chemical companies out there when it comes to PFAS. So you've heard me say this before. If you're going to sue the chemical manufacturers, I'd say do it yourself, because whatever settlement, but we're not lawyers. Especially don't be a Facebook lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I never claimed to be. I'm somewhat well versed in certain legal things. That's why my nickname was F. Lee Bailey in the military, because I look at the legal side of a lot of things. These organizations, I don't know. My personal opinion is, I can call them an ambulance chaser. I can call them, whatever. And I'm not saying this particular law firm is, but you ask anybody out there when it comes to personal injury, lawyers, they're ambulance chasers at the end of the day. That's the reputation they have. That's the industry name label that they've been given. Now there are some good ones out there, but like I said, I don't endorse anybody that I haven't personally vetted myself. And when it comes to this group, again, let me bring it up so you know who it is. Environmental Litigation Group, PC. Again, they're out of Alabama and DC. As I'm scrolling through this page, or scroll through the page, and I'm doing it again right now, I'm reading through it and I'm seeing my name in big, bold red letters. And I'm like, again, how the hell did they get my name? I never talked to this company. I have no idea who this company is. I have no idea who this individual is. And I'm going through and I'm seeing other firefighters that I'm supporting, that I've talked to, identified in this article, this blog. So I reached out to them. I'm like, sent them the link, and I said, take a look at this. I said, any of you guys ever heard of this company? Heard of this individual? Been contacted by them, for that matter? Every one of them said, no, we have no idea who this is. So then one of the individuals said, this looks like a copy from Sharon Lerner's Intercept report, the story she just did on us. And I'm like, yeah, I think you're right. So, I mean, this guy writes it like he did the interview, and that's far from what happened. We never talked to this guy. So there's definitely some copyright infringement things going on here. Sharon from the Intercept is not happy about this. We're not happy. We're going to reach out to our attorneys and have them send, a cease and desist letter, or we'll do it on our behalf of ourselves, and go from there. Hopefully, who knows? Attorneys are probably going to get involved in this, but yeah, it's just, it's absolutely crazy. So I reached out to Sharon and I sent her the link, said, hey, take a look at this. Check this out. And she was like, that's so wrong. Yeah, that's wrong. Among other things. But she asked me, she goes, can you reach out to these folks? And I did. I called, left a message for this individual. We'll see if he calls me back on Monday. But he's going to be advised, take it down. You can either take it down immediately, or our attorneys can have it taken down. But yeah, I mean, it's just, and this is a law firm that did this. So they have attorneys out there. You would think they would have checked, make sure everything was good to go before this went up. But yeah, they, the other firefighters, they're not happy about this at all. And we have no problem. Let me get this straight. We have straight and clear. We have no problem sharing our stories with individuals. We have no problem supporting individuals in similar situations that are affected with PFAS. I've said, to many folks, I will go to bat for you. I will share my experiences. I will support information that you need. But at the end of the day, if you're going to pull a stunt like this and pass off a blog that looks like it's your own interview, and what's really funny, folks, is at the bottom of this, they put a disclaimer, and they're saying no representation is made that the quality of legal service to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers. So they're saying, okay, they're not better than any other. I get it. It's the Papa John thing. But then it goes on and says, this website is designed for general information only. The information presented at this site should not be construed to be formal legal advice, nor the formation of a lawyer-client relationship. Well, folks, the way it's written, yes, he's not saying we're clients, but it looks like he conducted the interview with the firefighters that are mentioned in here, quoted us, put statements in quotes. And if any layperson were to read this, it'd be like, oh yeah, Kevin and these other individuals, they talked to this guy, and that's not the case. Again, we were never contacted by this law firm. We were never contacted by this individual. We never gave our endorsement. We never gave our explicit permission to have our names used. And at the end of this article, it says, our lawyers will fight for your right to VA disability compensation if your health was affected by PFAS exposure. And they go on and they say, we will file a VA disability claim on your behalf. And just to note, there are some discrepancies in this article that are false, which somewhat damages my reputation, because what he had put in there, it's misleading, and I don't want anybody that comes across this article to believe that I endorse this firm and this individual, because I'm telling you right now, here in the podcast, YouTube, I and the others mentioned in this have not. Sharon Lerner definitely has not. She wants it taken down immediately. And we're working on that. So we'll see. The ball's in their court. Expect a phone call on Monday to see what happens. If that doesn't happen, then attorneys get involved and we go from there. But like I said, I and the others in here, Sharon Lerner, we will gladly support each and every one of you out there. The only thing I ask in return is that if you're going to use my name, any quotes or anything like that, just simply say, hey, where you got it from, or that we spoke. It's just, cite your sources, folks, because these things have a tendency to get crazy. And again, I cannot stress this enough. I do not support any law firm out there that I have not personally vetted. And trust me, this one, I've never even heard of it. I've never even had a chance to vet it. Just simply based on this blog alone, I would not recommend them. So take it as you will. Like I said, it's, again, if you Google Ferrara PFAS, it's about the fourth or fifth one down. You're going to see it. I'm not going to mention who it is. I don't want to give them any credit. which could be, you know, construed as, oh, I'm promoting them. So that's not what I do. So that's going to do it, folks. You know, gosh, the audacity of some folks out there. You know, again, I am here to help individuals the right way. I have a team of individuals out there all across the world that back me, support me. I support them. If you have a question, concern, anything that deals with PFAS, reach out to me. I will put you in contact with my team before you reach out to any of these attorneys. That's what I ask for. If you are contemplating reaching out to a law firm, and I've had individuals do this already, if you're contemplating filing a lawsuit against any of the foam manufacturers, garment manufacturers that you think may have included PFAS in their products that you were exposed to, reach out to me here at the Weekend Wrap Up or AFSO21. You can email me at contact@AFSO21.com. That's contact@AFSO21.com. I will respond back to you. If I don't have the answer, I'll put you in contact with those that do. Again, I am not an attorney. I cannot provide any legal representation or legal guidance. I will direct you to those that can. I will give you my opinions on things that I've seen, but I cannot provide any legal guidance or legal guidance, you know, on anything like that, because I am not an attorney. Never have been, never will be. I'm just well educated on certain laws and legislation. That's what I do. I have the time to do that. I have the network to be able to do that. And I distribute that information back to my fellow emergency responders free of charge. I don't take a dime for helping out those. Now it's my consulting, other stuff, fire related stuff. Yeah, that's a whole different thing, but that's over there. So, so yeah, folks, with that, we're going to wrap it up here. Like I said, this is a little bit shorter of a podcast. I just wanted to get some things off my chest this week. Going back to where we started, Hurricane Ida. Folks, if you're in the Gulf Coast area, please be safe down there. I'm going to try to get this podcast up here in about an hour or so from now. It is 10 a.m. East Coast time, 29th of August, as we're recording this. But yeah, stay safe. That's the biggest thing. Stay safe. Don't do anything stupid. Take care of yourselves, your family, your pets. Get out if you can. Again, property can be replaced. You, my audience members, my listeners, my friends, my fellow colleagues, you can be replaced. So with that, folks, that's going to do it. As always, like I said, stay safe. Keep supporting your local fire emergency services. Check us out, AFSO21.com. You're gonna hear a little bit of a promo here after I'm done blabbing here. But with that, folks, until next time, I'm out of here.
Veteran-owned and operated AFSO21 Agile Fire Service Organization for the 21st century applies their extensive background in fire protection and emergency services to deliver support with identifying, developing, implementing, and maintaining strategies and techniques essential to operate and sustain an emergency response organization. AFSO21 services include staffing analysis, risk assessment, standards of cover, training, management, and financial reviews. AFSO21 is prepared to support your organization with increasing your capabilities values. For more information, please go to AFSO21.com. That's AFSO21.com.